Hey all, welcome to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. So we've got UFC 265 coming up this Saturday, headlined by Derrick against Ciryl Gane. So we're going to break down the card as we always do, look at the odds. Remember, it's a betting podcast, guys. Not just picking who I think is going to win necessarily. We are looking at the odds, looking at the percentages, seeing if there's any value and whether we can find any value to make some money from the card. I missed the last week, unfortunately, so back for this week. Try not to miss any more weeks. 14 fight card, I think it is. Just to remind everyone, I do offer a premium membership whereby you can pay to access our pre-betting and live betting tips. So there's a service for pre-bets and for live betting. This Saturday we'll have a live betting service for the boxing, which is on before the UFC, and then the UFC will follow straight after, where we'll have live betting, and also there's a pre-bet for this event. All bets are tracked, guys. In the last 3 years or so, if you bet £100 per unit, you'd be up about 28k with our service, utilising the pre-bets and live betting service. All bets are tracked, full transparency. You can follow me on Twitter at Pro MMA Betting. And if you could hit the like button on this video, that would be much appreciated. Most of our members are with us for a year. It just works out best bang for your buck. It works out cheaper to get a yearly as opposed to paying every month. So have a look at the packages available, or drop me a DM on Twitter if you've got any questions. But weekly, monthly, 6 monthly and yearly membership options are available. The live betting services run through a private Discord channel. So you'll be sent a link to Discord and you'll be able to access the live betting tips on there. And there's also plenty of members on there that discuss the fights and whatnot. So if you want to have a chat about fights coming up, etc., gives you an opportunity to do that as well. Let's move on to this card though. I'm going to try and fly through it as quickly as possible. I think there's about 6 pick'ems on this card, so it's not the easiest card for betting, this one. So it is a pay-per-view, so we are in Houston, I think, so we will be in the big cage here, so that's something important to remember if you are a bettor, and there's going to be a crowd as well. So again, something to bear in mind. A lot of fighters kind of feed off the energy from the crowd, so we're going to have a crowd back as well. So the first fight is in the Bantamweight division. We've got Johnny Munoz taking on Jamie Simmons. Munoz is up at about minus 275 now. Look, I expect him to win this fight. Simmons is probably going to get taken down and submitted, but there's no way I'm getting behind Johnny Munoz at minus 275. He's clearly a flawed fighter in the sense that he's very one-dimensional, seems to have a good grappling. His takedown entry seemed okay in his debut. He did manage to get the guy down a few times. Perhaps his opponent was saved by the bell at the end of round 1, but he just couldn't get the takedowns early enough in the rounds moving forward, and he basically got outworked in the clinch. It's a bit of a boring fight, especially rounds 2 and 3. But he's definitely limited on the feet. Simmons probably got the advantage on the feet, but when I watched tape, he was going for takedowns. I've only watched a couple of his fights, and that's just going to play into Munoz's hands. So I don't think Simmons is UFC level. I mean, I'm not even sure if Munoz is, but there's no value on Johnny, in my opinion. I wouldn't be parlaying him up. People are, clearly, because he was around minus 225, and when I last looked, he was up at minus 275. It's not. I can't bet someone like that who's that one-dimensional, who's got a weakness on the feet. I wouldn't be confident that he can win this fight if it is on the feet. You know, if I'm going to bet someone who's juiced minus 250 kind of area, I want to be confident that they've got an advantage in one particular area, and if they are forced to stand, or if they are forced to grapple, depending on what their weaker point is, I'd want to at least feel confident they can hold their own in that area. And I mean, perhaps he can hold his own in the stand-up against Jamie Simmons, because, as I said, Simmons, he doesn't look great. It's tough to get a full read on him because a lot of his fights are over quick, but Munoz does seem like a pretty solid grappler, so I do expect him to get him down and finish him, but I'm not getting behind the moneyline price there. No way, I'm not parlaying him up either. I guess if you want to look for value, let's have a quick look at where's the under at. The under set at minus 120. So interesting. Simmons to win. by submission or inside the distance. Sorry, Munoz to win inside the distance. I'd rather take the under. I mean, you're looking at inside the distance, plus 120, plus 130. And you can get the under. It's slightly more expensive, but at least you're covering yourself just in case Simmons wins, which wouldn't shock me. It's a low level MMA fight. And you just saw the weekend just gone. It was a very low level card, a very weak card by UFC standards, but you saw what happened with the underdogs are flying in, and this is the type of fight where an underdog win won't shock me. But I guess I'll pick Munoz, but in terms of a bet, if anything, I'd look at the under, like minus 110, minus 120 area. Let me just refresh on Simmons' losses. Has he been finished in every loss? So a quick look. I think he's finished most of his opponents. So Giga stopped him, Child stopped him, Simpson. Yeah, I mean, he's been submitted 3 times. His 3 losses are he's been submitted once, he's been KO'd twice, and then all of his wins are, he's got 1 decision win there, a decision in his debut. But since his debut, all his wins are inside the distance besides a fight against Terence Ullman. So if anything, I'd be going with the under on this particular fight. That's where I feel there's some value. I do fancy it to finish under. Next fight, women's bantamweight division, which is 125 in the women's division. Victoria Leonardo taking on Melissa Gatto. I'm just passing. Gatto hasn't fought in 3 years. From a betting perspective, that's just a big pass for me, unless there's some crazy value on the line potentially, but this is basically set at a pick-em, so I'm just not seeing it, guys. So I'm literally just moving on. I've got no idea what's going to happen in that fight, and there's no value at pick-em in my opinion. Who knows? Gatto could look great. She might look awful. Who knows? Miles Johns versus Anderson dos Santos. I'm not going to break it down because I broke it down when they was originally meant to fight on the Makhachev versus Moises card. I did do a breakdown for that fight on that card. So if you want to hear the breakdown, go and listen to the Makhachev Moises podcast. I did pick dos Santos based on value. Let me just see where the line is now, because I think before he was about plus 140. Oh god, he's even higher now. Well, I'm sure he was about plus 140. Maybe it closed at what the line is at currently last time, but Johns is out at minus 225 now. dos Santos plus 180, so I'm definitely sticking with dos Santos there. No, it's a value play, guys. He's plus 180. If you gave me a pick'em line, I'd probably be betting Miles Johns, but plus 180, I just don't think there's any value on Johns at minus 225. Not comfortable betting him now. I don't think he likes pressure fighters, and dos Santos, he's not great, but he does come to fight. But like I said, go and listen to the podcast from Makhachev Moises if you want to hear the breakdown. But I'm definitely sticking with dos Santos there, especially now that he's out at plus 180. Next fight on the card, we've got Manel Kape taking on Ode Osborne. So this is the men's flyweight division. So we've seen Manel in the UFC a couple of times now. Pantoja fight, just didn't let his hands go, just didn't throw enough volume and lost the decision. Rightly so, Pantoja won that fight. It was close, but he just didn't do enough. And then the Nicolau fight, he won that fight. That was a really bad decision against Nicolau. That was definitely a decision that should have gone his way. So he can definitely count himself as unlucky there. But he's got a style that just the judges don't like it because he's not active enough, and he definitely deserved the loss to Pantoja, but losing the Nicolau fight is a worry. He's taken on Osborne here, who is going to give him a stand-up fight as well. He's just got to let his hands go. Osborne is coming off a win. I'm just trying to remind myself, it was against Jerome Rivera, quick win. Jerome isn't UFC caliber. Before that, he suffered a quick loss to Brian Kelleher when he dived in for a takedown and got guillotined. And we saw him on the Contender Series get the armbar from the bottom. So, I mean, it's tough to get a proper read on Ode because, his last 3 fights have lasted a combined 7 minutes roughly. There's not been a great deal of stand-up in them. Like the Villarreal fight, a lot of that played out on the ground. So it's still hard to know where he's at and what his ceiling is and what he's capable of. I mean, I guess you've got to side with Cape here because Cape is very talented. You know, he's got. Now, coming into UFC, I was pretty excited about him because I thought he had all the potential to pose problems for Davison Figueiredo. Obviously, Moreno is now the champion, but there's a lot to like with Cape, but he has to just pick up the volume. It's judges just haven't liked his style so far, so wouldn't be shocked to see him throw this one away either. But I'm going to go with Cape here. I mean, he's minus 200. I can't bet minus 200 because I don't feel I know enough about Osborne yet. I think there's still unknowns about his style. But there is a lot of potential there with Cape. So I'm going to stick with Cape here, even though I feel for someone like Cape who has thrown away, even though he should have won his last fight, he's just got a style that isn't judge friendly. But I'm going to favour him here to take the victory, but I don't think there's any value. I wouldn't touch him at minus 200, and that's partly because I don't have a full read on Osborne, but I'm going to stick with him now, and I'm hoping he comes out here and puts on a really good performance, plenty of volume, and can kind of start to cast away the Pantoja fight. And I mean, I thought he did do that to a degree. He did start slow in his last fight, but he came into it, but he just needs to come out here hot, just be hot from round one, throw in volume, take a clear decision win. Don't leave any doubt in the judge's mind. So I'll go with Cape, but I mean the pressure's on him as well here. You know, if he goes 0-3, he could get cut. Next fight on the card, I think it's the Karolina Jessica Penne fight. Let me just bring up the card. Yeah, so we've got Karolina Jessica Penne. I really didn't think we was going to see Karolina again. She was talking about retirement in her last few fights. I mean, she was talking about having a baby, I think. And I saw some girl from back in, I think it was from February this year, where she was, I didn't read the full article, I just saw the headline. She was openly talking about battling with depression and suicidal thoughts. It's not a great place to be if you're, you know, and I just wonder why she's carrying on fighting. 4 losses in a row. Don't get me wrong, she's lost to really good girls, you know, Andrade, Walderson, Grasso, Yan. But, you know, it's the manner of the defeat. She just hasn't looked good in any of them. You know, taking a bit of a beating in them. Jessica Penne is like 39 years of age, but I think she's definitely fresher. She was coming back from a long layoff with regards to that battle with USADA that she had, and then she eked out, first fight in 4 years, she eked out a split decision win against Lupita Godinez. I thought Godinez should have got the decision. I haven't rewatched it since watching it live, but it was close. I wouldn't say it was a robbery. And, you know, I've got to go with Penne here, I guess. I'm not confident. You know my rule, guys, low-level women's MMA, take the dog, but I think this is pick-em line pretty much. Karolina's still a slight favourite, so Penne, you know, plus 100. It's not screaming out to me at Value City, but I've got to go with the dog here. I just don't know how much Karolina's got left. I did have a small bet on Penne by decision, managed to get it at like plus 200. Because I didn't particularly want to bet the money line. I would have liked a bigger plus number, like plus 120, plus 130, plus 140. I would have been on it, but plus 100, pick 'em fight. It feels right, to be honest. You know, Karolina minus 120. I would have it more as a dead set pick 'em, but it almost is if we're looking at implied probability. So I will pick Penne because she is the underdog here. And like I said, I've gone for a little bit on a decision line. Back take is live. She is crafty at jumping on your back. But I'm overly interested in money line. I don't have Penne isn't great at the end of the day. But I'm partly fading Karolina here because I'm surprised she's back, in all honesty. I really thought that would be the last we'd seen of her. So I'll go with Penne in some kind of dire split decision type fight. Next we've got Ed Herman taking on Alonzo Menifield. Alonzo's sitting up at that minus 225 range that I'm not interested in betting him in at all. I don't trust him. I think if you're going to bet Alonzo, personally, I would be looking at Alonzo by KO or Alonzo in round 1 perhaps. I'm not interested in betting that price on his money line. Yes, he should win. He's the more athletic guy. He's the more powerful guy. He's the younger guy. He's the fresher guy. But something about him I just don't trust. Let me just remind myself, has he ever won outside of round 1? He's got a round 2 win on his record, got a couple of round 2 wins. But yeah, guys, if you're a seasoned bettor, you've got to be very careful betting guys that are round 1 merchants when they're sitting at the minus 250 territory in the UFC. You're going to come a cropper. And look what's happened. Both UFC fights that have gone deep. Devin Clark, he lost the decision. And OSP got knocked out deep into round 2. So, Ed Herman's a dog. I know on paper it looks like he's just going to get knocked out, and he very well might get knocked out in round 1. That's why I said if I was going to take Alonzo, I'd be on round 1 or his KO line. I'm not touching the money line. But, if Ed survives round 1, Alonzo maybe starts to slow down a little bit. Ed's a dog. But you've got to... It's hard to pick Ed Herman here because you just look at it and it just seems like he's going to get knocked out. But I can't get behind the money line at minus 225. I can't do it. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets bet up more. Let me just check. Is it still minus 225? He's minus 250 now, actually. I can't pick Alonzo here at minus 250. I just can't do it. I'm not betting Ed Herman. I'd rather live bet this fight, to be honest, because I think round 1 will be rough. If Ed Herman does win, I think he's got to survive a rough round 1. I'd rather jump on it on live bet. So I would personally preserve Ed Herman for live betting if you're able. Menifield KO. I think it's rubbish though. It's like minus 130. I don't really like playing props at minus numbers. So that's a pass for me. And Menifield round 1. I'm not really a round better, but let's have a look what it's paying round 1. It's not great, plus 150-ish. Menifield round 1 KO, are we on here? Plus, Menifield wins by TKO in round 1. I'm seeing like plus 225. Maybe that's worth a sprinkle if you like your brown bets. I'd rather pay the plus 225 on the round 1 KO than pay plus 150 on round 1. Personally, I won't go big, but I'm going to pick Ed. Look, I don't like the pick. I think Alonzo is going to win this fight, but I just can't. I can't sit here and pick Alonzo Menifield at minus 250 when the guy just is a big banana skin past round 1. I can't back those kind of guys. So the pick is Ed, but he probably gets knocked out here. But I'm not backing that minus 250 line. I can't pick him based on that line. So next fight on the card. We have Drako Rodriguez taking on Vince Morales. So Drako, UFC debut. Well, contender series. He got a good win against Mana. I can't remember the guy's surname, but he's actually making his UFC debut soon. I'm actually quite excited to see him because he's a dangerous striker. But he got the takedown. Ended up getting reversed, but ended up landing triangle on Mana Martinez. That's it. And then his UFC debut against Zahabi, the brother of Faraz. He got one punched. He started out okay. He was winning the round. There wasn't much coming back from Zahabi, but he just walked into a right hand and lights out. So it's still hard for me. Like I was saying with Osborne, hard to get a read on him. Same with Drako, because you look at the 2 fights that we've seen him in contender series and UFC, they're 5 minutes combined, and then you go and watch his regional fights and they're all round 1 wins. I did watch the fight with Gravely before when he was scheduled to fight in contender series, so when I tried to dig into him, and if I remember rightly, I think it was just Gravely wrestling him, so it was hard to take much from it. But all of his wins are early. And I hate that. I hate that when I'm capping and it's someone that's just got round 1 wins. They always get overvalued. That's for sure. But it's just hard to get a full read on their skill set. What's their cardio like? What's their grit like? Can they take a shot? and if they're winning round one as well, you don't normally get to see their takedown defence, their grappling. You just left with a lot of question marks. So a lot of question marks for Drako. He had hype, but he's coming off a bad loss. And Morales, we haven't seen since he suffered that brutal calf kick defeat against Gutierrez. It was really bad. Before that, Benito Lopez, he lost the unanimous decision. I thought he deserved that decision, but it comes down to how you score round one. And Benito was winning round one. He was landing a lot of kicks from the outside, and he did get dropped. Now, I thought, based on what had happened in the round, even though he was getting outlanded, I thought dropping him was enough to give him the round. But the judges thought otherwise. So he can be a slow starter. You go and watch like the Yadong Song fight, and he kind of warmed into it in round 3 when Song started to slow down, and the Benito fight kind of gave round 1 away. He never got going against Gutierrez. His calf got compromised early in that fight, and then he had Pilate in trouble early on. And what I do like, he's made a career move. He was training with Tony Strickland, which would have been like a small gym. Now he's over at is it Extreme Couture? He's at. It's one of the Las Vegas camps. I'm sure it's Extreme Couture. One of the two, or Syndicate. I can't remember what it is, but he's made the move over there, which I think is a good move for him. So he's getting good training in. And we haven't seen him for over a year. Let's see if he's made some improvements. I mean, he was sitting at plus 120. Now the line is dead set at a pick'em. Pretty much. Some books, Rodriguez is still the fave. So I just don't see any value on the fight, guys, at this line. I think it's pretty accurate. I don't have a full read on Rodriguez. I'd line it as a pick'em roughly. So I'll pick Morales just because he is the one that at some books he's still got a plus number, or if he has got a minus number, he's still the slight underdog. But it's definitely not a confident pick. As the jury's out on Rodriguez for me. I'm hoping this goes 3 rounds, so we get to see more of Rodriguez to see what he's about. I really want to see him go 3 rounds here, and Morales isn't easy to put away, so I think he will go 3. But I've got to go Morales just because he's the underdog, and I go with value. But I don't think there's particularly any value on this, guys. I've got to be honest. For me to see value, I'd want plus 130, plus 140. I think a pick'em is about right. That's how I'd line it. So I think the line's well set there. Next, we've got Bobby Green taking on the monster that is Fiziev. I think this is a tough fight for Bobby. I like Bobby. The line, Fiziev's unplayable, minus 325, minus 350, but I just think this is a tough fight for Bobby. I've got to say. I'm definitely not betting Fiziev. I'm not putting him in parlays. He does slow down. I think he's lost round 3 in. I think I gave Diakese round 3 in their fight, and I'm just looking at his other fight. He definitely slows down. No, I didn't give Alex White round 3. I don't think, but he did slow down against Alex White as well. And then Moicano, he got the quick win, put him away in the first round. So he's a dangerous guy. He might get the knockout here because Bobby Green has that style, that shoulder roll kind of style, and it's a dangerous style against Fiziev. Very dangerous style. He could get put away here. If the fight does go 3, perhaps Bobby will start to come on later in the fight. He's normally got good cardio. He's very relaxed in there, Bobby. He's very experienced, but I just think Fiziev is a tough fight for him. This fight was. You can argue he won that fight, but he done typical Bobby Green stuff in it, where he kind of threw it away. I think he started wrestling in the 3rd round, and when he should have separated. But that's Bobby Green for you. He had a run of good fights in terms of stylistically. They gave him Guida, Lando, Patrick, and even Moises to a degree was a decent fight for him stylistically. Moises has made improvements, but Fiziev is a tough fight for him stylistically. So even though I think if there is any value in this fight, it's with Bobby Green. I just stylistically think it's a tough fight for him. So I'm sticking with my gut here as opposed to going with the value, and I'm going to pick Fiziev, but. Let me just see what Fiziev KO pays, because I wouldn't be shocked if he catches Bobby. Bobby can be caught, and he's going to have to take some shots. Fiziev KO plus 200. That's not bad. But I was going to bet this fight. Perhaps I'll be tempted by the plus 200, but it's just that shoulder roll style. I just got a feeling he's going to eat something massive. So perhaps a sprinkle on the Fiziev KO, but Bobby is historically durable. So I don't know. Keep it small if that's the if you want to look at that bet. Right, we're on to the main card now. So opening up the main card, we've got 5 fights left. We have Yadong Song taking on Kenney. This is going to be a good fight. Both have a tendency to slow down. Both come out at a high pace. Song is more your athletic, fast twitch, fibre type fighter, hence why he starts to slow down. Kenney just seems to come out at a million miles an hour, which tends to be why he slows down. Let's just have a look at their most recent fight. Song's coming off that loss to Kowalkiewicz, where, funnily enough, he actually won round 3 in that fight, but we just seen why that was the case. Kyler gassed badly against Paiva. You look at one of his fights pre-UFC where he lost a split decision. He gassed badly in that fight. He has. So, you know, Song winning round 3 against you says it all, really, because you look at Song's career and he does slow down. I mean, he slowed down against Vince Morales. He did slow down against Cody Stamen and Marlon Vera. He did slow down again. That was the round where he started to get taken down. I thought he was still winning the stand-up in that round, but the takedowns became a little easier and he couldn't get back to his feet, or it took him a while to get back to his feet. So there is that question mark with Song is regarding his gas tank, and I wonder if Kenney may come out here and try and implement some of the wrestling strategy just to try and tire Song out. But Kenney has slowed down in fights as well. Numerous fights has happened. He slowed down against Ray Borg, bringing up a jog. I think that was short notice, to be fair to him. He slowed down against Marab. He started well against Marab, but he did slow down in that fight. Alateng, he was fine, but that was all one-way traffic. Alateng really struggled. And then, having said that, Nathaniel Wood, it was 1-1 going into round 3. I thought Wood was going to pull away, but Casey gritted his teeth and nicked the 3rd round. And he utilised wrestling in that round, actually. There was a part of that round where I can't remember if he got Wood flat, but he had some, I don't know if it was controlling the clinch or he did get down to his knees, but there was definitely some wrestling in that round. And the Dominic Cruz loss he's coming off of, Dominic actually wrestled him in the 3rd round. They was 1-1 going into the 3rd round, and it was the wrestling that got the job done for Cruz. So it's going to be an interesting fight, because I can definitely see this being 1-1 going into round 3. That would not surprise me at all. And then it's probably going to come down to a war of attrition and grit. I don't see any value on the money line. I think it's a pick on. Let me just see what it is today. Oh, Casey's actually gone favourite now. Song's actually the underdog, plus 100. I really don't have a strong feeling on this fight. I think it's a really good fight and a tough one to call. You've got the speed and quickness and more power coming from Song, but Kenney's got that high volume, gritty approach, and he does have the wrestling in his back pocket as well, which could be the ace in the pack needed in this fight, unless Song can put Casey away. But you know, he's one of them gritty guys. You know, MMA lab. He's never been put away before, and Song is, you know, he had a lot of hype, but then he's taken those losses to Kyler. He's taken that loss to Cody Stamen. He's taken, well, I was going to say lost to Marlon Vera. He actually beat Marlon Vera. Some people feel that he lost that fight. I actually thought he won the first 2 rounds. They were competitive, but, you know, I've got no problem with that decision. But I guess I can kind of see why the money is coming in on Casey here. And I think I'm going to stick with Casey. He's just got that grit. And I just think that's a problem for Song, just a gritty fighter, and he's, he's got all the skill in the world, athletic ability, but I think Casey's going to make it just a dogfight. First round might be tough, probably going to have to take some shots, but I think he's going to pour it on, and I think he's going to end up coming away with the W here. But I don't think there's any value on that line, to be completely honest. Minus 120. I'd want him as the dog to bet him. I'm not overly interested. Let's just have a look at the decision props, because this fight probably does see the cards, especially if Casey wins. Casey wins by decision is... Look, if you like Kenney, you've got to take the money line because it's only minus 120. But I'd probably put 80% of your money on the money line and 20% on Kenney by decision, because you can get like plus 160. I don't think that's too bad on Kenney by decision. But yeah, I just favour him, just grit. I just think he's going to grit it, and the wrestling in his back pocket. I don't think he'll have success with the wrestling early, but I definitely think if he's smart, like he was against Wood, goes to it in round 3, could have some joy. If Marlon Vera can take you down, then I don't see why Casey Kenney can't. So, but Casey Kenney has fought at 125 before, but he does look like a solid 135 now. So, yeah, I just think Casey's got more paths to victory here. So I'm going to side with Casey, but I think it's going to be a very close, competitive fight, and it's hard to see much value on the current line. Next fight on the card, so we've got 4 fights left. That's the first fight to open the main card. Let's hope we don't get any interruptions this week. We've got Tecia, Torres, Angela Hill. Oh, another pick'em, pretty much. Tecia's a slight favourite. It's another tough fight to be confident in who's going to come away with a win here. I'm going to pick Angela Hill because she's the underdog. Plus 115. Tecia is probably the favourite here. She had that rough stretch where she lost 4 in a row. To be fair, she fought killer after killer. They were not easy fights, but it was looking like perhaps she was done. But she's had 2 good stylistic fights, let's be honest, back to back. But she's looked really good in them. Absolutely ran through Van Buren, and then ran through, I can't remember the last girl's name, but just ran through her. She seems to be fighting more aggressive. Even angry, I'd perhaps say. These two have also fought before. It was like 6 years ago. It was at altitude in Mexico, and Tecia used a heavy grappling approach. Angela's definitely improved her grappling since then. She's harder to take down. She's not as easy to keep down. There wasn't a lot of that fight on the feet. When they were on the feet, it was Angela Hill pushing forward, but she just wasn't throwing a lot. Tecia is very short. Very small, very compact, but she's very fast. Her style normally relies on her. She will be kick heavy from the outside, or she will use her kicks first to set up her punches. And she likes throwing the Superman punch to close the gap and then let her hands go. But she's very much about either kicking to get inside, or she would just explode with like a 4, 5, 6 punch combination to bring herself inside. She has had good matches against 2 girls that were overmatched. Van Buren as well, similar size to her. Angie is bigger, and she's a solid striker. So there's probably a bit of recency bias in this line. I'd probably have it set personally more like a pick'em, but because the underdog is Angela Hill, I'm going to go with Angela Hill here to win a close, probably going to be a split decision. I did look at Angie decision, and it wasn't much different to the money line, unsurprisingly. Let me just double check. Hill by decision. Oh, hold on. It's Bet Online have got it similar to the money line, but other books are showing us plus 200, plus 225. That's nuts. If you can get plus 200 on Angela Hill decision. Now, I know I normally say be very careful because the money line is at underdog money. So, but I'd honestly be strongly considering, if you like Hill here and you can get plus 200 on decision, splitting 50% of what you want to put on the money line and 50% on the decision line, because I just don't see a finish at all. It'd have to be something really low percentage, in my opinion, like a cut. Just something freaky. I don't see a finish. It's in a big cage as well. This goes to the cards, but yeah, I'd be all over that plus 200. But BetOnline's got it at plus 135. I might have to have a look on the exchange, see if they've got it yet. But yeah, plus 200 Hill decision. I think that's near enough as good as Moneyline. So that would be the bet for me. What's Torres decision? Because likewise, I just don't see a finish in this fight. Whoever wins is going to win by decision. I'd be shocked if there's a finish. Torres decision. Where is it? See, that's more like, even money. So that, yeah, it's Angie Hill decision for me at plus 200. If that's if that is correct, which odds checker is showing me, that is plus 200 at everywhere bar Bet Online, which is the sharpest book, and plus 135 is far more accurate. So I'll go with Angela Hill as the underdog. Next fight, we've got welterweight division, Vicente Luque taking on Michael Chiesa. So a really good fight, this one. This is a bit of an old school matchup in terms of it is striker versus grappler. If Luque keeps us on the feet, he wins. If Chiesa can get his grappling going, he's going to win the fight. It really is that simple. Luque, I don't think he trains at Sanford anymore. It's been like that for a while now. He's been back in Brazil training. He still has Sanford team in his corner. I don't know whether he maybe comes back a couple of weeks before he's due to fight and spends a couple of weeks there, or what the deal is. But I think he's at Cerrado now, and it's been like that for a few camps now where he's been back in Brazil. But look, Luque's a beast. Iron chin, hits hard, keeps coming forward, solid striker. But he has had very, very fortunate matchmaking. If you look through his UFC career, he's never really had to face a grappler. I mean, you've got to go back really to. I mean, I know Leon used grappling against him, but in terms of a full-blown grappler, the last time he faced someone like that was on the Ultimate Fighter against Mike Graves, where he got wrestled. And I guess on the his UFC debut, maybe you could say against Haydar Hassan, he was known for his wrestling, but he's had really good stylistic fights. You look through who he's fought. And he's just been given strikers. It's crazy, really, that he's been matched so fortunately. I mean, some guys come into the UFC and they're given 3 horrid stylistic matchups straight off the bat, but it's not happened to him. He's been given striker after striker after striker. My concern with Luque is, so this is a different stylistic matchup. He's got a full-blown grappler here. First time he's had to face someone like that for many, many years. Now, because he's faced strikers, there's not a great deal with takedown defence or even grappling evidence. Now, we know he's got a nice Darce choke, but in terms of his takedown defence, you go back and watch the Leon fight. Leon gets takedowns on him. He does resist Leon pretty well early on, but he starts to slow and the takedowns become easier, and Leon starts taking him down in the second portion of the fight. Nico Price took him down in their rematch. I'm just trying to think who else I saw take him down. Derrick Krantz, it wasn't a takedown from Derrick. I think Luque dropped for a guillotine off of a Krantz takedown attempt, but Krantz ended up getting his back when he tried to get up and got both hooks in. It was a little bit precarious for a minute or two. Nico Price took him down, as I said, in the rematch, and Randy Brown took him down as well. So, look, he probably wasn't expecting the takedown, perhaps, and perhaps working his wrestling wasn't a big part of his camp for these fights. But he can be taken down from what evidence is available, and there's not a great deal, but he can be taken down. It's not great being taken down by Randy Brown and Nico Price, and Chiesa in the grappling and wrestling department is a step up from those guys, and that's going to be his plan here. He's not going to win this on the feet, Chiesa is still quite one-dimensional. In modern MMA, it's pretty rare now that you see guys who are pretty high level that are still pretty one-dimensional. But Chiesa just, he doesn't look comfortable on the feet still. But he's just smothering. I mean, he's moved up to 170. It looks like it's the right move for him. You look at him now, I have no idea he was making 155. He fights out of a southpaw stance, so it's going to take away the calf kick from Luque, which is obviously good for Chiesa, but he's going to need to get takedowns here. It's in a big cage, which is better for Luque, but His last couple of fights have been in the big cage. Carlos Condit one as well. I think all three of his fights, or four of his fights at welterweight have been in the big cage. So his last two fights are the most relevant because he, fought decent guys. RDA, who's now gone back down to lightweight. He was always on the smaller side for welterweight, and then he's coming off a good win against Neil Magny where he just blanketed him and won. 4-1. You can even argue 5-0. Just suffocated him. So I think he can get Luque down, and when he's on top, he's tough. He's tough to get up from under Chiesa. He's a very good grappler. So it's striker versus grappler, and let's see where the line is now. I liked Chiesa when he was the underdog. You could get him at plus 115, plus 120 earlier in the week or back end of last week. The line now is he's like plus 100, even money on some sites. But I just think it's an interesting fight for Luque because it's the first time he's facing a grappler like this, and I can just see him being smothered. Chiesa's got to be very careful because he is going to be outmatched on the feet. Luque does crack, but I just think the takedowns are going to be there for Chiesa, and I just wonder how Luque's cardio holds up in a grappling heavy fight. Leon's the only guy that's really pushed him in the grappling department, and he slowed down badly in that fight, but he got hit with some decent body kicks as well. I don't know if that was why, but it's an interesting fight. But I'm going with Chiesa here as the underdog. I think he can get the grappling going. He's just a nightmare, and I think he's going to blanket Vicente Luque. Co-main event is José Aldo taking on Pedro Munoz, another pick-'em fight. And rightly so. Well, Pedro was like plus 120 a few days ago. I can understand why money's coming on Pedro here, because my concern with Aldo is his cardio. He did slow down. You can argue in his old 5-round fights he used to slow down at the towards the back end of the fights, but he started to slow down a little bit in the 3-round fights now. You saw it against Peter Yan. Started to really slow down I think it was round 3, second half of round 3, really started to slow down. Because he started round 3 well actually, but he started to slow down the second half of the round. Marlon Vera, I know he got the grappling going in round 3 where he just took Vera's back basically for the whole round, but he was definitely slowing down. He had a good round 1, and then Vera came on in round 2. He was definitely slowing down, and that's why he went the grappling route in round 3, because he knew Vera was coming on strong. The Marlon Moraes fight, he threw that fight away in the 3rd round. He was the one moving forward, but he just wasn't throwing anything in round 3. And I bet Aldo in that fight. I had a pre-bet on him, and going into round 3, I thought, I'm going to cash the dog money here. But I scored round 3 for Moraes, even live, scored it for Moraes. Aldo just wasn't landing enough. So I think I've got to say Pedro's going to win round 3 here because Pedro's cardio is great. I think Aldo probably wins round 1 because he always starts fights strong. He started strong against Marlon Vera. Peter Yan actually lost round 1, but he came back in round 2 in that fight. Marlon Moraes, I think I gave Marlon round 1 there actually, and then Aldo came on in round 2. But it's round 3. I just think Aldo will start well, and then I think it's going to come down to round 2 this fight. Who wins round 2? Pedro. Aldo is the better striker, there's no doubt about it. Pedro, a big staple of his striking is his calf kicks. He needs to get the calf kicks going. And Marlon Vera was throwing a fair few kicks against Aldo, and Aldo, took a few, but he was checking them as well. So can he get the calf kick going against Aldo? That's going to be interesting, because the way Aldo fights is he likes to stand in the pocket. He's never all the way out. He's pretty much always all the way in that traditional Muay Thai type stance. So the calf kick is going to be there for Pedro. Now, what I have noticed is Aldo has started throwing kicks again. The last couple of fights, especially against Yan and Vera, he was throwing a fair few low kicks. So is he going to be the one going for Pedro's calf? Because I don't think we've ever really seen Pedro have to take them himself. So, it could become a bit of a calf kicking battle early on, because Aldo's leg is there to be kicked, and is he going to be able to check them? I mean, he's not going to be able to check them all. And Pedro is one of the better guys in the game with the calf kick, and it's such a game changer. And we saw it in his last fight against Jimmy Rivera. He compromised Jimmy early on in that fight. He's got an iron chin, Pedro. He can take a shot. Aldo goes to the body well, but it's just so hard to get Pedro out of there. The guy's got a granite chin. I've got to go Pedro here, I guess. I think the value's gone. It's been sucked out of the line. Pick'em, I think that feels fairly accurate. But I think if you was getting the plus 120 or even better on Pedro, I think it's the right side. But I do think it's going to come down to round 2. I think Aldo will start well. I think Pedro will finish well. I think it just comes down to round 2. If you're Pedro, the approach here has to be, you've just got to get in Aldo's face and make it a high-paced fight. Because I think Aldo will definitely slow down. He won't like the high pace. I think that has to be the plan for Pedro. I wonder as well who's going to dictate on the front foot. Because you push Pedro back, it definitely nullifies the calf kick if you're pushing him back. But I can see Aldo doing it early, and then I can see him potentially being pushed back as he starts to slow down. The grappling route isn't going to work against Pedro that he used against Vera. He's not going to have that to fall back on. He's going to be forced to stand. And it's not good in there when you're getting tired. So I'm going to go with Pedro, but I honestly struggling to see the value now with the line at Pick'em. Pedro decision plus 235 I thought was interesting though, because I'd be very surprised if he stops Aldo. Pedro's not known for his huge punching ability. People are normally in trouble with him when he severely compromises the leg, but I would be surprised to see him finish Aldo. So the plus 235 on decision is interesting. If you like live betting, I think it could potentially be a solid live bet fight, especially if Aldo does have a good first round. I would definitely be looking to jump on Pedro as a decent underdog after round 1. So I'm going to pick Pedro here, personally. Main event, Derrick Lewis, Ciryl Gane. Ciryl, quick turnaround for him here. He only fought a few weeks back. So he's in Derrick Lewis's home city of Houston. Look, Ciryl Gane ticks all the boxes. He is an amazing fighter. The one thing that lets him down, and I've probably spoken about this with him before, is his power. Now, when you lack power at heavyweight, there's going to come a time when if you're winning decisions and going 5 rounds, you're going to get clipped at some point. In MMA, in a high variance sport, especially in the heavyweight division with 4-ounce gloves, you can't keep winning decisions by just out skilling people. You're just going to get caught. At some point, you're going to get caught. And that is the worry here. I mean, Derrick can be finished. It's not like he's unfinishable. But Ciryl is a bit of a decision machine. There's just the one thing he lacks is the power. He's got everything else he has. Amazing cardio, amazingly skilled. Great athlete, very quick. He ticks all the boxes at heavyweight. It's just that one thing, power, and that is a big X factor at heavyweight. If guys keep hanging around, it's just dangerous. It's just dangerous in there for 25 minutes of time. And if anyone personifies that danger, it's Derrick Lewis. He's outmatched here skill for skill. He's outmatched athletically. He's outmatched speed wise. If this goes 5 rounds, it's highly likely it's going to be a 50-45 one-sided win. But Derrick Lewis just has that one punch shocking power. Cyryl's been better. Last time I looked, he was up at he's even minus 400 at some books now. Look, I can't get behind that myself. I see some guys on the chat saying that they're capping Ciryl here at like minus. I think I saw minus 500. Look, he might end up looking at minus 500. It's definitely possible, but there's no way I want any part of Ciryl here at minus 400. Let's just have a look at the props. I've not looked at them. Derrick Lewis KO. If you're going to back Derrick, it's probably KO or bust. You can get some books are offering plus 450. You know, I don't think that's. If you haven't got any action on the fight, but you want a bit of action, Lewis KO plus 450. He's done it so many times, then it's worth a punt. And Ciryl isn't a huge finisher, so if he is around for 5 rounds, you know, Derrick's got 25 minutes to land something, but he probably is going to. Well, he is going to be outskilled here. He's going to have to land just a bit of a fluky shot. But if anyone can do it, it's Derrick Lewis. Ciryl Gane, let's have a look at where we're looking at for him. TKO plus 130, plus 140, plus 150. Derrick can be put away. You know, he's not insanely durable, and he does slow down. So if he does slow down here, he could become, you know, easy pickings. Could be a bit like target practice. Just trying to see what Gane decision is. Gane decision is up at like plus 200. I guess based on the lines, TKO plus 160, decision plus 200. I'd probably go with the decision personally. You know, I think it's going to be a boring fight. He's going to be way more wary of Derrick Lewis' power than he was Volkov's. You know, you've got to be very careful with Derrick. So I can see him fighting pretty cautiously unless Derrick really tires and he can start really laying it on him. But I mean, on the flip side, there is a little bit of pressure on Ciryl to start, you know, putting in these real impressive highlight reel finish type fights, because, you know, heavyweights, the crowd expect knockouts, and I just wonder how that affects him. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe he's not bothered. But, you know, the heavyweight division is known for the big knockouts and so forth. And, you know, I'm not sure if Dana said anything about the Volkov performance. I think he was critical of the Rosenstrike fight. I don't know what he said about the Volkov fight, but, you know, Dana White's smart. You know, he put out subliminal messaging as well about Ciryl not finishing and whatnot. He just puts pressure on the fighter. So I just wonder if he will succumb to that at all, or whether it's just water off a duck's back and he'll just go out there and do his thing. I think it'd be wise just to do his thing rather than kind of try and force a finish against Derrick Lewis. But look, I've got to pick Ciryl because he just outskills him, and Derrick has to land a bomb. But I'm not touching the money line, no way. If anything, maybe the decision at plus 200, and if you want to take a poke on Derrick, plus 450 by KO, I definitely can't fault you for having a play at that. So, but Ciryl Gane is the pick. So that wraps up the card, guys. Is a pay-per-view card, UFC 265. I'm just having a quick look. How many dogs did we go for this week? Do we think it's a dog-heavy card? I think I picked a few, didn't I? Passed on that one. I did pick the Santos 1. I picked Penne 2. Oh, I picked Herman 3. I picked Vince 4. Casey, he's the favourite. Angie 5. Chiesa 6. Pedro 7. Well, I've gone dog heavy, guys. 7 dogs I've picked here. 13 fights. I've gone for 7 underdogs. So I do think this is a good card for underdogs. We do have about 6 pick'em fights. So it's a well-matched card. Biggest favourite, I think, is Ciryl. Otherwise, you've got to go down to Fiziev is like minus 325. And Johnny Munoz is a big favourite. So yeah, there's only a couple of big favourites on this card, and Johnny Munoz, definitely steer clear of that one, guys. Alonzo, Menifield, that gives me the heebie-jeebies as well, betting him at that line. Fiziev should get it done, realistically, and so should Ciryl Gane, but it's always risky betting the juice in MMA. I know you guys love doubling them up. But yeah, that breaks down the card, guys. I think the dogs are going to bark again this weekend. Last weekend was ridiculous. I think all the underdogs won up until the Melsick fight. Like, that was the second fight on the main, or third fight on the main card, I think, and all the dogs had won. It was crazy. We'd obviously had one draw, and then a few of the faves actually won after that. But yeah, at one point it was looking like the dogs were going to sweep. But yeah, I like the dogs this week. So, but a lot of the fights, I don't think there's any value because there's so many pick'ems. You know, and I think they're capped correctly. That's where I would cap a lot of these fights at pick'em level. So it's it's tough to bet them. You know, like last week there was a lot of plus 130s, plus 140s, plus 150s, plus 160, 70. You know, that kind of area. That, you know, when you cap it at pick'em and then you're getting that line, it's like, right, okay, I'll just take that line. There's value there. But these lines are very accurate. We don't get the gifts so much, especially in the UFC like we used to now. The lines are a lot tighter, so it's tough to find the value on them pick'em lines. Because honestly, I pretty much think that's where they should be. So then you have to look at the props and whatnot. But anyway, good luck, guys. Good luck with your bets, and I'll be back next week.